Welcome to my first campaign event of 2014. I'm here to offer you truth in government, fiscal responsibility, and my commitment to improve transportation, a need which you may have noticed on your way here tonight. I will speak for 12 minutes. If you can't remember what I've said after a while, don't worry. I'm going to post it on the web after a while. I've got it all written down. Okay, my website will stay up to remind you and me of my commitment. Truth in government. You may find yourself thinking sometimes, the government is lying. I find myself thinking that every day. There are more than three kinds of lies. But three kinds of lie are especially popular with the government. A direct lie, such as when they say, we are not going to increase taxes, or you can keep your health plan. There's a partial truth, where you are told the attractive aspects of some crazy proposal, which is going to have a huge downside, and then there are lies of omission, where something terrible is foreseen by the government, but they choose not to tell anyone, so the opportunity to prepare is lost. I do not favor lying to people, and I promise to avoid it. Fiscal responsibility. The government doesn't have any of its own money, and they never make any money. Everything the government spends, it gets from you and I, one way or another. We have to pay for everything we get. We have to pay for everything the government gives away. Free is really expensive. If the government lets 6 influential people get off with a tax break, the rest of us have to pay those taxes. Improve transportation. I hope none of you had a hard time getting here tonight, but somehow we've been letting developers build for 50 years without ever making them pay for the traffic they bring. The city alone is 84 million behind on transportation. We have to make growth pay its own way, all the time, all of its own way. Getting into the truth in government idea in more depth, many proposals in government are tremendously lengthy. The healthcare law, at some 2,000 pages and 20,000 pages of regulations, is the extreme example of the day. But many local ordinances are 200 pages. They don't want you to understand them. There's a $3 word for this: obfuscation. A more clear expression of it is they're deliberately trying to confuse you. This isn't the end of it. That 200-page ordinance is going to be implemented by county staff, the county's permanent government. They're going to reward their friends and punish their enemies. You can bet on that. But there is a defense to all this, though. Elect me. I will vote no on all of these crazy shenanigans. I have a rule of thumb. Anything over 10 pages is probably BS. If the executive summary is over 10 pages, well, then it is definitely BS. How do you elect me? You can vote for me. You can try to recruit your friends to also vote for me. But I'm facing an opponent who thinks the absolute opposite of the way we think, and he has the money of those who write those 200-page proposals that they hope will confuse you. The people who aren't here tonight, who never attend any public function such as this, they are the people who will decide this election, as they decide all elections. To reach them, I have to have money to get my message to them. Donate now. I need it now. I have to pay for the fair booth, which is essential to my campaign. That's this week. Expanding now on fiscal responsibility. We have already seen how all the money the government ever gets is coming from other people, you and I. The established political class has no end of big ideas which they want to do with other people's money. What they really want to do is provide favors and breaks for their friends who fund their campaigns. My opponent raised more than $20,000 in a matter of days from people who will have business in front of him if he is elected. How do you think he will vote on their issues? If you think he will vote to give your money to his campaign supporters, then you are not the only one thinking that. The return on campaign donations is more than $14 for every dollar donated. That water sports complex that Mr. Benderson built out there by Lakewood Ranch, around $80,000, around $80 million. I can't even think that big. Around $80 million of taxpayer money. The commissioners, every one of them beholden to Mr. Benderson. For bundled donations, they proved it. Straight up corruption. It's legal, but legalized corruption is still corruption. Is there even one person here who will ever row in that water sports park? Public interest? None of us will use it? A recent analysis of the relaxed impact fee structure the county commissioners all voted for noted that it will take 42 years to spread the tax break for 6 companies over all the taxpayers. 42 years. I remember buying my condo a number of years ago. A major factor in buying the condo was that I could afford it and afford the taxes. The next year, the county commission bumped the tax on it by a factor of 14. Yes, the tax I was paying multiplied by 14. Some taxpayers took them to court, took them to Supreme Court, and they lost. If they could do it then, they can do it now. They can raise your taxes just like that. You need me to be your commissioner. I will vote no. You probably noticed the traffic on the way to the event. We need to improve transportation. The practice of continually dumping more and more traffic on the existing road system has led to widespread gridlock. I have documented this in a number of videos on my website, and now and then I add to the video gallery. The developers have simply elected a person loyal to them and to them alone to each seat on each panel, city, county, and state. Now they get to do what they want, no matter how one-sided. What they want is freedom for themselves without any responsibility on your dollars. Freedom to use their wealth and power to chip away at your quality of life and take your money to acquire ever more wealth and power for themselves. Can we fight this? Sure we can, but we have to pull together. remember what I said about the return on campaign dollars being about $14 for every dollar spent. That is a national average. So the person who donates $200 tonight stands to gain $2,800, if not in cash, then in tax savings and expense reduction. This works for the big bank account people. If it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. They not only donate themselves, they make sure their employees and employees' spouses donate as well. A practice called bundling. We can do this together. My friend Greg Schwartz is with me tonight to help you. Either he or I will be happy to receive your donation. The maximum is $200 per person. There is no minimum. Enjoy the party. I will now answer questions of general interest.
On the school board referendum that runs on the off cycles in March, what can we do to get that on a regular cycle ballot? Or do you think it should stay on the March ballot?
The school board is autonomous by state law. I think you probably have to get the state legislature to put it onto the October or November ballot. Since the school board, they run their own show unless the state tells them they have to do something. All right.
That's why they do it in March.
Question of general interest. John Dow.
You mentioned the thing about the Henderson Park and everything. I've been following that a little bit, but there are other issues there, Dean. I think that need to be recognized. I mean, obviously the city and the county support our beaches. They fund the beaches. They support the Orioles because they attract people in who spend money here and generate revenue. I've read things to that effect regarding the facility out there by 75 as well. You're getting a lot of colleges coming down here to train, and this is just the start. And I believe I read something about the national competitions and so forth that's going to generate people coming in and spending money and generating revenue. So it comes into what you refer to as a cost-benefit analysis. Are you spending some money, but at the end are you going to make more money for the county? I don't know if that has been done or not. I don't know the answer to that.
It's easy to assert. A man can stand up at a microphone and say, well, if we give $80 million to Mr. Benderson, we're going to get $81 million back.
I'm not
assert that.
condoning the way that it was done at all.
But I don't know that they've done a cost analysis. I didn't say that they did.
Ultimately, that's what
Stan might know. Stan, did they do a cost analysis, or did they just pull it out of their hat?
Or was it just a fake?
I can't tell you.
He doesn't know.
All of those things
right.
should be fake.
I was told, Pete, that when the Benderson project was proposed, he asked for a very small amount, like $2 million, and it is mushroomed to what you're saying is $80 million. That's what I object to. How did that get rolled forward?
Did you hear the little story about the camel's nose under the edge of the tent? Well, that's what the $2 million was. And then once he's got the $2 million, he say, well, you don't want to waste your $2 million, so give me another $10 million. And the first thing you know. And some of it was state money, but state money is your money too, because we all pay state taxes as well. We don't have a state income tax, but all these little crazy taxes that are here and there that they hope you don't see, they add up. Yes, John.
Well, some governments do better than others. You've got things like Big Dig in Boston, for example, that started out to be this much and turned out to be this much. And, but then you have other situations where the government will hold the contractor's feet to the fire and say, you agreed to do it for this. You're going to put up a performance bond, and if you don't do it for that, you're going to forfeit the performance bond and so forth. You know, there are different ways to go around that and get there. Some governments do better than others. I don't know what this county and the city does, you know, but there are other avenues out there to achieve the objective without spending excessive amounts of money.
Well, it doesn't look like they got enough of a performance bond to cover 80 million.
I don't know.
So I don't know. It doesn't look like they got very much on the Luke Wood Park thing. That was city, because they're suing them now. So
Right.
yeah, if they had an adequate performance bond, they wouldn't be suing.
It's called fiscal responsibility.
Yes, yes it is.
So Pete, you would go back to the original impact fee level for transportation?
I would absolutely go back to the original impact fee. As a matter of fact, there's something I like that's in the original 2050 called fiscal neutrality, which could be explained by they pay the initial fee based on an estimate, and then they pay a back fee based on an audit. So that we know exactly what it's going to cost the government, and then they pay that. There was some weeping and gnashing of teeth over the very suggestion, so
Of course.
yeah, you may have noticed that.
So you would be, just to use some real figures here, you'd be okay with charging $7,000 in transportation impact fees per single-family dwelling?
When they're building a new dwelling. Not thinking that we would input, but it would be different within the urban service boundary, because some of that infrastructure is already built. Some of it might have to be expanded, but
But the original impact fee was more than $7,000.
wasn't it
Single-family home.
ad valorem? Wasn't it
The
dependent?
impact fee, stroke a check. You want a building permit, you gotta pay the.
Oh, really?
Well,
Well, seeing that the houses are now running over 150,000, you know, it's pretty much entry level. I suppose, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Just want to make sure it's clarified.
Well, yeah, you know, they're saying that it's not economic to build a house with those fees built in. Well, that's another way of saying it's not economic to build the house, because the house isn't paying its own way. It's still going to get those taxes over 42 years, but meanwhile, the taxpayers that are here right now have to front it. And that's you and me. So, John.
actually, the way that should work, and the way I've seen other communities and cities do this, is when somebody comes in and wants to develop a large tract of land and make it a subdivision or whatever, they have to provide the monies for the adequate infrastructure for the development. So the developer actually has to put up his money to develop it, and he can parlay that money, his investment on developing that property, to the people that buy the individual lots within that tract of land. It really doesn't even, you know, the city just makes sure that they're going to do that they're going to provide the infrastructure. As far as the costs and stuff like that, you know, the city doesn't necessarily have to get involved in all of the money. You know, they just have to require that the developer of the land represent that they're going to do it and do the inspection type of work to ensure that that work is done according to the approval.
The developer would himself develop the infrastructure within the development. There is an impact on the larger community, because those cars don't just drive to the corner of the road and then keep going. Yeah,
How
stop there.
thorough of a job you do in putting that together. You can take it this far, or you can take it out to a larger area of impact.
We have to have the best accountants available.
What, the ones out of Washington?
They're gonna come down and fix the website.
No, the ones that are going to make sure we.
I'm not proposing that we run up $17 trillion debt.
Oh. The accountants didn't do that.
Well,
They just reported it.
well,
Okay. Anymore. Okay. Well, there are no more questions. I'm going to give some shout outs here. We've got Beth Colvin, who brought this beautiful cake for us. And that's wonderful.
Happy birthday, Katie.
Thank you.
Happy
We
birthday.
have Zenobia Davis, who is my fashion consultant.
Oh, hi, Joe. I was wondering why he looks so good.
That's Zenobia. I owe it all to her. And then we've got Tan Mackey, who keeps me coming to the meetings on time. And of course we've got Lourdes Ramirez, who is the candidate for District 4. And so you want to all vote for Lourdes because she came to my party. We got my friend Greg Schwartz, who's the gatekeeper over there. He's in the back. Raise your hand, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah. And we got Stan Zimmerman, who's the only reporter who came. Yeah.
That's great. We need more.
And we've got Valerie Guillory, who I was worried she wouldn't make it, but she's here. And she's our homeless expert. And anybody wants to talk homeless, Valerie. So,
What about Colin?
Colin.
Here's Colin.
And John.
Well, Colin hasn't given me his biography.
And John Dow.
John Dow.
And Mr. Anonymous.
Mr. Anonymous.
Yes, this is John Dow, Mr. Anonymous.
Lee Bo is the one who's been fueling the impeach Obama protests on the overpasses.
Oh, good.
Yeah, impeach Obama. You see his shirt. Yeah. And John, what are you famous for? No. Aren't you an engineer?
Yes.
Yes, you're an engineer.
He's
an
a
engineer.
modest engineer.
He's too modest. He never told me anything about himself. Okay, and then we've got our deluxe waitress back there in the corner. Everybody wave to the waitress.
Now we have to,
Yeah. That's Josh. Oh, Beth and Josh. Okay.
Don't forget the doll lady. She read
Oh, the doll lady. Yes, she did. Yes, hi, doll lady. Yeah. Well, your name was?
Sandy.
Sandy. Sandy the doll lady. All right. All right.
Thank you, Katie.
So, any other items on the agenda?
Do you have any job openings?
Do I have any job opening? What, for an engineer? For an engineer?